Hey guys, Shay here from Fool on a Journey. I am doing a spiritual book review. This is A God Who Looks Like Me, Discovering a Woman Affirming Spirituality by Patricia Lynn Riley. Overall, definitely a positive review. Reading the book is actually an experience. It really makes you feel things. It asks you really to dig into memories and what you were taught as a kid and how that made you feel. Did you ever acknowledge those feelings? That kind of stuff. There's definitely an element of some shadow work in there, possibly if you have any kind of lingering issues from, whatever church or religion you were raised in that you have either left, or if you've changed, or maybe even if you're still in it and just some issues that you just don't deal with or talk about. I will say, coming from me personally, I was raised Catholic. It sounds like she was raised Catholic. I can't say that I know that for sure. I don't think maybe she said she went to a Catholic school, but there was definitely some tone of being more directed at the Catholic Church, more so than, the other religions, which is fine for me because that was my experience, so I'm not sure if that would be an issue for people who are not Catholic. She does, in each of the sections, really go into one specific type of experience, and if that experience doesn't apply to you, you won't get much out of it. For example, one of the things that she talks about is how to reword the 12 steps, and I've never had to deal with addiction. I don't know how that would affect me, if that would be an issue for me, or whether or not that was even a good idea, how she did it, because it doesn't apply to me personally. So I do want to talk about what more applied to me, so it's more of an honest, this was my reaction to this. A couple of the sections, definitely I had to put the book down and just cry for a minute and feel my feelings. But in a good way. It was definitely a healing experience. I think overall, definitely worth it. So in each chapter, let me show you. So here's what the chapters kind of look like. You get, part one, it's got two, but in each chapter, almost every page, at least every 3 to 4 pages, there will be a journal prompt. There will be some kind of action that she asks you to do, some kind of affirmation she asks you to say, a survey, go ask people that you know this question and see what the answer is. So there's a lot of that in here. It's definitely a workbook. She's asking you to work through it. And I wrote all over this book. So anytime there was a question, I just started writing right on the book, which is why I'm not going to be flipping through this one on camera, because there's a lot of personal stuff that I just put all right in here, which was what I wanted to do, so fine. I will say I got this book used on Amazon for I think I paid plus shipping was $4 and some change. I think the book itself was listed as 12 cents, which is why I don't have a dust jacket, but that was fine for me. So the intro part of part one is really just kind of trying to explain to you what she wants to do, what she hopes you get out of it. She does talk to you as though you're fragile and weak in a way that annoyed me a little bit in the beginning. It's like when she first starts, she thinks she's talking to this very incapable, just completely disempowered, helpless person, which was a little bit frustrating, which then turned into almost rage, because in part two, most of what she's actually asking you is really good stuff. Remember what words people used for God, what images did you see when people pictured God? Was it always a man? Was it always he? How did people talk about, the women? How did people talk about the women that you knew? How did people talk about, all this stuff? So it's the stuff that she was asking me to examine, I liked and enjoyed. But so much of it was, think of all those things you didn't get to do because you were a girl, or things you wanted to do but couldn't do. Only boys could do those things. And that did not compute with me at all. I actually had a couple of conversations, more than a couple, with my mom and some other family members about how that was just ridiculous. And then at that point I wanted to know, was it just me? Am I the only person that just said, well, I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do it anyways, even if I'm not supposed to? Or, was that something I was taught? Was it just me? I don't know. But I did not understand this little section of the book. It made me very angry. And then she kind of goes on a little bit about how, Disney affected your perception of what you're supposed to want out of life. Okay, all Disney made me want out of life was a magic carpet, and then I found out those were not real, and it was very upsetting. That's really all Disney did to me that was upsetting. So I just didn't get that part, and I was actually pretty upset about it. Like, as I was reading it, I was like, this is crap. This book is clearly not for me. I never had any of those feelings. But if you get through that, and it is a pretty short section, it's only about 20 pages, and it is interspersed with some very good journal prompts, so just dig through there if it makes you as angry as it made me. Because this next section, where they're talking about religious myths and stories, she pulled out prominent women and particular stories that applied to certain life situations that women, go through, and changed them into a way that that just presents it in a way that is holy and amazing and empowering. And it's really about empowering the entire experience of life as a woman. It was incredible. Not all of it applied to me, but the parts that did were very intense and very emotional, and I have tons and tons of pages, corners folded over to go back and do even more journaling and even more, meditating and all that kind of stuff on those sections, because I feel like it's work I'm going to be doing for a while, just because it just feels so good. So you've got Eve, then there's a section and the section on Eve is really talking about the idea of original sin, is it all a woman's fault, that kind of stuff. There's a section on Lilith. Lilith really dives into the idea of, what's expected of you and doing what you want to do, and not feeling like you have to apologize for who you are. The section on Mary is really about this idea of really your sexuality and how, was it repressed, and are you disconnected from yourself sexually now because you felt like you needed to be this, virgin mother figure. The Divine Girl Child was actually really fun. She's asking you to go back and remember, how did you play? What did you think was magical and awesome as a kid? And when did you stop? Why? Who told you to stop? Try to do those things again, which was very fun. The One Who Shed Her Blood is clearly about, your cycle. There are whole books now specifically dedicated to that, and I don't think this one said anything specific that hasn't been said in other places or been, expanded upon in other ways. So I wouldn't say that one is very unique, but it was definitely good. All of the prompts were good. She really pulls out, some of the parts in the Bible about how, women that were bleeding were somehow unclean, and talking about how that, what that does to your mind to hear that this is this thing that's going to happen to you that's going to make you dirty, which I can kind of say I remembered, but like I said, that's been addressed now more and more, that I wasn't quite as intensely, I didn't react as intensely to that particular chapter. The Wounded Healers was one that I read through, but it just didn't hit me. It's dealing with rape and incest, and I almost feel like if that's something that you're dealing with, this one little chapter is probably not all you need to deal with that kind of thing, but she is walking you through it in terms of how it is belittled and ignored in particularly Christian religions. There's quite a bit in the Bible about incest. There's quite a bit in the Bible about rape. So she picks out a couple of stories about that specifically, and then walks you through how you can change that story and make it one where you have the voice, and it's not just a in the back corner, we don't really talk about it kind of thing. So it was good, but like I said, because it doesn't apply to me, it wasn't this big emotional thing. The Wise Old Woman is about the crone. Obviously, you're looking at something more along the lines of, you don't have to try to be, young and beautiful forever. It's okay to age. I didn't quite get this voice or where she's coming from here, because I feel I'm kind of excited about it. I'm somebody who appears much younger than they are. So the idea of finally having some gray hair and people respecting me as an adult immediately and not immediately assuming that I'm underage and stole my parents' car is kind of an exciting process. And my husband and I regularly joke about being excited to see some gray hair, from both sides. I'm excited to see his hair graying. He's excited to see mine. We like the idea of growing old. So I wouldn't say that I really kind of get that resistance to aging, but again, personal experience. If you're somebody who's going through that kind of stuff, I think it's great. Again, you get all the journal prompts, and there's a lot of meditations and affirmations all through all of them. Wrapping up in part 4, one of the things she talks about in the Healthy Connections is how to then, now that you have created this very strong feminine inside of yourself and around yourself and surrounded yourself with sacred feminine everywhere, how to reconnect with men, how to connect with your partner, things that you can do together, things you should just tell your partner, I'm going to do this on my own. I actually really enjoyed that. She talked about speaking at somebody's wedding, and a lot of the things that she talked about was this idea of you're two separate people. You're not becoming one person, you're just two separate people who have decided that you're going to walk together. And I just liked that idea a lot. I thought that was really beautiful. And at the very end, in the Awakened to a Woman Affirming Spirituality, it is a ritual that she has completely, written out for you in a way that's a script. So you could potentially have this, if you are a part of a women's circle, you could potentially do this ritual as, here's a reader, here's a narrator, here's a, chorus of women saying this. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. It echoes a lot about the Catholic Mass in the sense that it is a walk through life, but this walk through life is not about walking through Christ's life. It is about walking through the women's experience, all the way from, Eve in the beginning to Lilith to Mary, the divine girl child, all the way through to the crone, which was it was really fascinating to see kind of how I reacted to this idea of that holy feeling, but instead of envisioning, that the God, which I haven't done, obviously I haven't been to Mass in probably about 3 years, I think, maybe, since the last time I went to Mass. I don't know, I still very much enjoy Mass. I've spoken about that before, but it's been a while, but I really liked the idea of creating that weighted, emotionally weighted experience, but it being all about women. It's really good. She suggests that you record it and then listen to it during a meditation. I'm definitely going to do that. You can see on the edge of my book all the pages that I have folded over. Those are all the journal prompts I'm going to go back and keep doing. And then real quick, to kind of wrap up, I wanted to read you a quote that I think really sums up what she's trying to do here, and I think she does it very, very well. And if this is something that speaks to you, then I think this book is for you. So, in conclusion, we will not allow those who claim to be experts on spirituality to dictate the terms of our belief. We will design an original spirituality. We will name our own gods. I thought that was really powerful and fantastic. And again, here is the title for you. If you are interested, highly recommend, and as always, thanks for watching.